Welcome back to GSC. Mini Cooper part 2. Might become 3 parts. We'll see. I'll turn this around and show you what we're trying to take off. So in the last video I showed that we took the exhaust off, valve cover, intake runner, intake plenum there with throttle body. I am down to cam sprocket and chain, which the cam sensor is kind of in the way, but you can reach down in there with a box end wrench. You can get the little 10mm bolt head that is hidden in there and slide that sensor back far enough you can get a 18mm socket on that cam pulley, gear, drive gear, and back it out. So I finally got that done. You see my pretty blue paint mark there, so I know where my gears are. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this sprocket off, and I went and bought a bungee. I'm going to bungee from here to the chain, and that way it stays kind of upright and out of my way while I continue to work. Once I get this taken care of on this end, I'll go ahead and work on getting this menagerie of stuff. Negative battery cable is disconnected, but I need to make sure that I get everything pulled out of here and out of the way, since there are multiple vacuum lines and wiring harness pieces that need to find their way out of that general area. So we're going to work on this. I'm going to get this off and bungee up that timing chain, and then I will reconvene and see where we've made progress to. Now that everything's kind of out of the way, I got my bungee in, I had my cam sprocket off, and it worked out. I left the cam position sensor in. The cam tensioner came out pretty decently. It goes somewhere way down in there, and I can't show you with the camera. So now that I have that off, I can pretty much do these brackets here, and then I'm just down to draining coolant. Anybody that says the passenger motor mount has to come out of this car, they're right. I tried to work around it, did the best I could with what I got. But to get the chain guides out, you have to take these slick plugs out of the front of the head. The only way to get to them is pull this motor mount off. This is an 18mm. There are 4 16 mils, 2 down there and 2 down here, and that comes all out. Put a jack under the oil pan and get it moved out of the way. So now that's done, and I've wasted 45 minutes tinkering around with getting that out safely and making sure I can get around the car. That's done, which means I can go ahead and get to the front head bolts here, the little 13mm guys. I have my rocker assemblies off, which I did very carefully to let the valve spring tension out. One by one, I start on the outside, outside, inside, inside, middle, and work my way opposite on the way out. And it worked out pretty good for me. So I think at this point, I now have to figure out how I'm going to drain the coolant from this car. That is a low pro race car jack on the pinch point for the body, the jack point. And I still barely have enough room to get under this thing with even maybe a cat litter pan. So I've got to see how much coolant it holds and see what I can do to come up with a safe, clean method to get the coolant out of this thing. Once it's out, well, good for me. And I can go ahead and take this thermostat housing off with all these plugs, because that is what's behind it, is coolant. So I'm going to wait to do that until I've drained the engine. Coolant's drained. Hey, look! I took the cylinder head off. It actually looks pretty good in there. Other than the fact the head gasket was blown, that's an L problem. And why did we have no compression in cylinder 2? Oh, look at that. A great big hole. Okay, well, I'm gonna go get my stuff to clean the deck of this engine block and work on getting the new cylinder head unpackaged from the big box over there. And that way, maybe, just maybe, I can get this thing back together. I have a little bit more cleaning to do on the deck yet before I'm comfortable to put the head gasket on. I decided to go and start prepping this new head that they bought. And I put assembly lube on both the cam lobes and where they ride and the head itself. And now I gotta go ahead and get these torqued back down and in place. And then hypothetically, I'm gonna put a cylinder head back in the Mini. Head's on, stripped hole is fixed. Time is good, motor mount's in, ground strap's on, intake runner is on, intake, horn, and throttle body are on. At this point, I think it's time to go and get the fuel system bolted back in that's over there and roll this thing over with the plugs out of it just one time to make sure everything sounds okay. And then we should be ready to go and put a valve cover back on this thing and see if it makes Mini Cooper sounds. I do not fit in this car, but I hear no interference. All right, I'm gonna put spark plugs in this thing and see if it worked. Cool. Excellent. The Mini will live. Hit it. Well, the Mini lives. Needs a good oil change. Got a little bit of a tick because of the oil, but other than that, it's a runner. Good to go. It's a Mini again. Off for a full test drive. That concludes my Mini Cooper adventure. Hooray!